In this video, I want to talk about 5 trends that I see happening through my eyeballs and through the research I've done that not many people are talking about that I think can keep you ahead of the curve. Are you ready to uncover the hottest real estate investing trends for 2025 so you can stay ahead of the curve and take advantage of things before other people do? Well, you're in luck because that's exactly what I'm going to talk about in this video. In this video, I'm going to go over a handful of topics and some trending emerging strategies that are happening in 2025 that not everyone's talking about. So strap in, let's talk about real estate, what's working, what's not working, so you can gain an advantage over the competition. If you like making money in real estate, hit that like button. Or if it's over there, I don't know. Real estate can be a tricky thing to wrap your arms around. It's nationwide, of course, and obviously worldwide, but we're talking US here. It's nationwide, it's statewide, but yet it's extremely localized. It is a weird phenomenon. It's larger than the top 20 companies in the world combined, just the US real estate industry. However, it's so localized and there's so many different factors that go into it, it can be hard to understand what to look for and what's actually going to be a trend or just a fad. Now, I own $50 million worth of real estate that I bought using none of my own money. More on that later if you want. And I have students in all 50 states, and I'm in a couple high-level masterminds that have major real estate investing players in all the major markets. So I have a unique pulse on the United States real estate market. So I think that gives me, and using ChatGPT and other AI sources, I think that gives me a good grasp on some things I can get you ahead on. So where should you be investing? Let's start there. The country is currently moving from the coast to the Midwest and the Southeast. So if you want to take advantage of markets where people are moving to, and I'm going to give you specific markets here in a minute, generally think the Midwest or the Southeast, the country's moving there, so there is more people, hence the demand is higher. The supply is still low, like pretty much all real estate right now. So if you're wanting to invest in any industry, any type of investment, you want to own what few people have, but everyone wants. And that's the Midwest and the Southeast. The cost of living is still reasonable in the Midwest compared to some of the coastal cities. Taxes tend to be a little bit better, and business and landlord-friendly laws. So whether you're looking to flip, wholesale, or especially buy rental properties, I would either focus on the Midwest and the Southeast, meaning your backyard if you live there. If you don't live there, there are a ton of options to invest remotely in those markets. Of course, you can make money in LA right now. Of course, you can make money down Miami or New York, but I'm trying to get you ahead of some of the trends and make it a little bit easier, because I promise it's easier to buy a cash flowing rental property in St. Louis than in Miami or New York. So let's go where it's easiest, because this is hard enough. Making money investing in real estate is hard enough as it is. Let's try to stack as much as we can in our favor. Some markets that have seen some specific growth that I want to hit on according to Yahoo, and this is where you're going to want to invest in all real estate. This isn't just rentals. The markets we're going to look down here, we got Dallas-Fort Worth has seen a huge surge in population growth over the past couple of years and is expecting to have even more. We got Miami, great hot market. Again, maybe harder to cash flow in downtown Miami. For a rental, you can in the outskirts, but mainly just general population movement and owning what people want. Miami's great. Houston's a market that has been booming for a long time. It's, I believe, the 4th or 5th biggest city in the country, and people are continuing to dial into Houston, so that's a great market to be a part of. And again, like any market, certain areas will cash flow, certain areas won't. For rentals, everywhere is good for wholesaling and flipping if you're willing to buy in different types of areas. Even here in St. Louis, Missouri, my hometown, there are a ton of areas of town that won't cash flow. The property values are too high and the rents are too low. So don't think that anywhere in one market cash flows and nowhere in another market cash flows. There are areas in all markets that cash flow. We're just trying to give you the highest rate of success, having the most areas that cash flow. Tampa/St. Petersburg has been growing quite a bit. It's right there on the ocean. It stays pretty warm. It did recently have a hurricane kind of roll through that area, so it's scaring a few people. Insurance costs are a little bit more. However, people are still moving there and they will continue to do so. And lastly, Nashville, a little more Midwestern there. The cost of living and the cost of home ownership has gone up, but it is still affordable compared to a lot of markets. And if you notice there, unintentionally, I'm going off of what my research shows me. We got Texas and Florida. And if you will look it up, that's where most of the country, or the highest rate of people are moving to, is Texas and Florida. So that's a sign for you to get ahead of that trend and continue to invest in those areas. All right, now let's get into some technical advancements in real estate to help you stay ahead of that curve. Everybody's talking about AI this and AI that, and honestly, I think some people just use that word, not really knowing what it means. Technically, artificial intelligence is a learning computer, not just a computer that can analyze a lot of things at one time. There's a difference. Let's not go down that rabbit hole, but let's talk about what AI, true AI, is doing in the real estate, specifically the real estate investing industry. One place that we're seeing AI is in property management. We have had VAs, virtual assistants, and people in the building taking phone calls, screening tenants, checking through applications, but a lot of that can be done through AI. In fact, we use Propertyware for our property management software, and they just came out with an AI extension called Leasing Lisa, where they have conversations and are able to talk with tenants on the phone, text, and email to try to screen the tenants and give them to us after a lot of kind of the box checking work has been done. It saves us time, it saves the tenant time, and it really allows us to be more efficient and lower our costs and either cash flow more or charge the people we're managing properties for less. There's a lot of predictive things in AI that are really, really cool. There are so many data points that go into when and if somebody's going to sell their house, whether it be on the retail market or on the off-market investment side. But having all of these data points is getting more and more refined. Like I have the software called Deal Pilot. Hopefully we'll put this in the description, maybe not, but it's dealpilot.io. And this is where you can use AI to search for distressed properties that have a higher rate of selling over other properties. What does that mean? Well, it runs a ton of different data points as in the home seller as well as the home. How old is the home? What type of loan is on the home? When's the last time the home was worked on? Has there been a refinance done? Is the home seller going through a divorce? Are they behind on their taxes? Do they have a lien on the property? It takes a ton of different data points and gives you a probability of how high of percentage that property is going to sell in the next 90 days to an investor. Now, of course, a majority of houses are low, but there are some houses that rank very high that are going to sell to an investor. Like we can use our AI and see, hey, this house is going to sell in the next 90 days because they're behind on their mortgage, they have a lien on the property, they're an absentee owner, meaning they don't live there, and nobody's occupied the house for 2 years. That house is going to sell to an investor. Will it be us? Maybe, hopefully. Will it be somebody else? Maybe, who knows? Will it be 2 months or 4 months? We don't know. We're just able to utilize our resources. We give a higher probability of success than just blanketing direct mail or cold texting. Another thing that I think is interesting that will pick up some speed here in the future is virtual tours. Whether we're talking rental property specifically or even house buying, I think it's going to be a big thing, people putting on these VR goggles and being able to walk through a house without touching and feeling it, but being inside the house. Now, I don't think this is going to be as prevalent in the home buying space because if you're buying a house, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're going to want to walk the property, feel the floors, touch the walls, and get a feel for how the home feels and how you sit with it. Maybe initially somebody doing this before they view it to not waste their time viewing all these properties. But on the rental side, I could see this space picking up to where people are able to tour a property that they're going to rent, which is not much of a commitment, and be able to do it at scale and be able to do a lot more tours in a day than having to drive around and tour every single property. So this is something the VR goggles haven't taken off like Meta thought or like Apple even thought, which is somewhat surprising because Apple usually hits home runs on those things. This VR movement hasn't quite got there yet. However, I do know they're working on some VR things with glasses, and if it's less cumbersome and easier to interact with the real world as well as having things pop up within your glasses and be able to walk around and not have this huge ugly thing on your face, I think technology is going that way. I think that will trickle down to real estate to some degree. The next trend I want to talk about is sustainability and green building. There is a lot of waste when it comes to building houses, apartment complexes, or commercial buildings, and there's also a ton of energy that goes into building those things. So technology is moving in the direction of being able to be more efficient, therefore using less energy, therefore using less pollution in building new homes, apartments, or commercial buildings. There's a lot of sustainable materials that are coming out, and there's even incentives for people that are building to have to use these types of materials or these types of practices to get the property built. The only issue that I see, or I guess not the only issue, but one of the issues I see with this is it usually costs more money. To use a specific type of siding, flooring, or window condos that are more sustainable, they seal and they keep everything in, it's more expensive to do those things because there's more materials and more costs getting to put in them. However, I do think AI and technologies and automated factories will help make these things cheaper and more affordable. Right now, we're kind of in limbo. A lot of politicians and places are pushing for more sustainable type materials and type of production, but it costs a lot of money to get those type of materials and productions. That's where I think technology, AI, the point of those things are efficiency. It always has been, always will be. The point of bringing technology into something is to be more efficient. I think that will start to catch up and these materials and things will cost less, and you'll see a lot more new buildings have them. And as that starts to progress, people that have a green thumb or people that are more environmentally or sustainably conscious will lean towards those properties. So while it might cost you a little bit more money, or whoever's building a little bit more money to build that building or house, people that appreciate that or want that, there will be some people that appreciate that and want that, so the price will probably go up for those. So at the end of the day, the consumer, like most businesses, is going to be the one that pays for it. The next trend that I want to talk about, I think is a pretty big one. There is a shift in housing preferences. We are moving a little bit more towards this multi-generational housing. Last year, 17% of houses were built with the multi-general type of housing in mind. So this means mother-in-law suites. This means basements being finished out with washer and dryer. This means basements being finished out with washer and dryers and kitchens. Just building the normal houses that we're building. But the thought process is, my parents are needing to live there now, or eventually they will need to live there. With the baby boomer generation growing, I think 10,000 people turn 65 every single day, and that number is going up. There is a need for this senior housing and senior care. You can throw your parents into a senior care facility that only cares about making a profit that costs $10,000 a month, or if you get along with your parents especially, which our generation, in my opinion, seems to be getting along with our parents better than the previous generation, and probably it's a trend that hopefully I'm going to get along even better with my kids than my parents did with me. A little bit of a side note there, but I think that's generally the way we're moving. If you're able to live with your parents or have them able to be separated and close to you, it can save them and or you a lot of money. And I love having my parents around my kiddos. You know, they're able to watch if I want to go out and have a few drinks with my wife or do whatever, go out, hang out, and just give us a little bit of a break. The fact that they're close and eventually maybe living with us, I think is a benefit. So we're wanting a lot more flexible living space. And kind of a separate note, but similar to this, there are a lot of people that are buying or building 5 or 6 bedroom houses, having a common area and renting out by the bedroom. This has become quite the trend over the past few years because the supply is so low. People are coming over here. They want or need affordable housing, which is a huge opportunity because it costs a lot of money to build a house. The cost of material and labor goes up every single year because of inflation. I'm not even talking about inflated inflation. I'm talking about normal inflation. The number one factor of inflation is labor, and the cost of replacement means it costs a lot of money to build something. You can't build a house for 100 grand, 125 grand like you used to, not even that long ago. Now it's 2, 3, 4, 500 grand just to build a house. So if you're able to pack more people into one house, it makes it affordable, and people that want to live in a nicer area and don't want to live in a crappy apartment in some horrible area of town are able to afford a room or a couple rooms in a nicer area of town. And lastly, I want to talk about some economic conditions and what's going on in the overall economy and what's probably going to go on and how that's going to affect housing and interest rates. Rising interest rates are not a good thing. I think we all know that. Over the past few years, interest rates have gone up substantially. They've kind of plateaued, but they're much higher than they were the previous 5 or 10 years. Historically, they're actually pretty good, but nobody cares about that. All they care about is what are the interest rates now. And higher interest rates coupled with the cost of living being high, with inflation of just normal goods you buy every day, and the fact that house prices have gone up means a lot of people's wallets are getting squeezed, and having the cost of money, aka interest rates, be high makes it even harder for people to move. And the flip side of that is if somebody's sitting on a 2 or 3% interest rate, they're not going to sell their house and move into another house and get a 6.5% interest rate because they're going to be able to buy less of a house. So naturally people have to move, but if they don't have to move and it's like a want move, they're not going to until interest rates come down substantially. And there's no real data to support that that's going to happen. In fact, Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed, has said he's not planning on lowering interest rates anytime soon. He's trying to keep an eye on unemployment and inflation, and interest rates are kind of his lever to do that. Unemployment is still pretty good, meaning there's not that many unemployed people right now. That could change. And then inflation is not where they want to be, but it's somewhat under control. So while both of these things, unemployment and inflation, are under control, interest rates are going to stay pat. If for whatever reason unemployment spikes and people don't have jobs, or inflation goes down a little bit and gets even more under control, then there might be some interest rate lowering. But for now, interest rates are going to stay where they're at. Now, I don't want to get too technical, but the Fed's funds rate, what Powell talks about, has nothing really to do with the 30-year mortgage. That's on the 10-year Treasury bond. They're linked, but not really. So when Jerome Powell lowers or raises interest rates, sometimes the 30-year mortgage is affected. The 30-year mortgage has gone all over the place in the past year or two, while the Fed's funds rate has remained pretty much the same. The two biggest factors of inflation are materials and labor costs. Labor costs is the biggest, but with all these tariffs that are kind of on and off again, and all of these things going on, the price of labor and material will go up. And as those things go up, that means it will cost more to build a house, which directly means that selling a house next to a built house, a house that's already built maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago, that value is going to go up as well. They are all linked together. So while inflation is a bad thing, if you're looking to buy or invest in properties, if you own properties, inflation's a great thing. I've made millions of dollars over the past few years just because inflation has driven up the value of my real estate assets. Now, of course, you have to own them to see that result, but in general, inflation will always be there. So the more assets you can buy now, you can hedge against inflation, meaning if inflation's there, you make money. Yeah, maybe your cash flow or your active business or your income isn't affected and is negatively affected by inflation. But in the background, owning assets and having those get pumped up even higher by inflation is a really settling feeling. I know that was a lot, but I just kind of wanted to poke around and give you my thoughts on some trends that I see happening through my research and my eyeballs in 2025. You're probably not going to take something from all of them, but if there's a point or two you can take from a couple of the points I made and be a better investor and get ahead of the curve, that means mission accomplished for me. If you appreciate this video, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe if you have not, hit that notification bell, and check out this video over here to learn more about how to actively invest in real estate with a full-time job. I'll see you on the next one.